Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you as part of our offering on the upper tier. If you could head over there, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification button, and drop a like on the video, we would be forever grateful. Tonight, we're going to bring you a Brighton preview. Massive game tomorrow at 2 o'clock, followed then by City and Arsenal at 4:30, I think it is, the Super Sunday. But what two games back to back, full on Easter Sunday. Two massive games in terms of Premier League title race, as they all are once you get down to the last 10 games that we are involved in. But yeah, lots to talk about tonight. We'll go through the actual game itself, and we'll also go through Luis Diaz. We have to have a conversation about his dad, and being, as far as I'm concerned, being a little bit disrespectful to the club, considering what the club has done for him and for Lewis. But again, maybe no surprise, who knows. We also want to talk about the managerial situation. Obviously, Alonso coming out yesterday saying he's staying at Leverkusen. It's not necessarily that he turned Liverpool down. It's not necessarily that he turned Bayern Munich down. It kind of feels like he's going to stay there for another year and wait to take over, probably from Carlo Ancelotti. And who would blame him if the job at Real Madrid is available? Certainly, that's the one that probably looks more appealing to him. And if he did take the job at Bayern or at ourselves, it would be anywhere from a 3 to 4 year contract. And who knows, maybe the Real Madrid job may not come up again. So who knows? So we'll get into that a little bit as well. We're also going to keep you updated today. Some unbelievable games today in the Premier League. An absolute madness. I'm just checking out Villa here at the moment. It's 2-0. Diaby and Konsa with the goals. Wolves had a few chances earlier in the first half. Norrie missed a couple of sitters, to be honest. Gary O'Neill was absolutely fuming. What a job he's doing there as well. But it looks like Villa are on the road to another win at home, which will be massive as well with United playing Brentford later. That's going to be a massive game, obviously, with Villa and Spurs picking up wins in terms of that top 4, top 5, top 6 race, whatever you want to call it. So massive pressure now on United now with Villa run out winners here. Massive pressure on United later to pick up the win against Brentford. So we will check that out. We're only going to be on here for less than an hour anyway, and it's kicking off at 8 o'clock. The OG is in the house himself. Stephen, how are you, my friend? He says, I'm fuming. Absolutely robbed. Absolutely robbed. Something needs to be done about refereeing in this league. Stephen, I've been beating that drum all goddamn season. Where do we even start? Absolutely disgusting. Yeah, I seen it today. It's absolutely mad, isn't it? And it's so infuriating and frustrating and stuff like that, and all rolled into one when they get it wrong. And people turn around to me on Twitter and they go, "Let it go. Let the Doku tackle go. Let it go." It's hard to let it go when you know you've been robbed. You know what I mean? And it's just infuriating. And we've said it a number of times on this podcast. The level of officiating in this league is absolutely so poor, of such a low level, to the point where I still get sent messages about who's going to be refereeing and who's going to be VAR in the games and all that kind of stuff and officiating. And now I've given up. Now I just don't look at it and I just go, listen, they're all as bad as each other, so it doesn't matter. And if the head guy in there who goes on telly every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever it is, Michael Owen, if he's clueless, well, then we may forget about it because he's the guy that they all look to. He's the leader of the pack, basically. So, very, very frustrating. If you get a chance, have a look at Newcastle's second penalty. I watched the game today. In work. I had it on my phone today in work. I was watching the games and all. It's definitely a strange one, all right, and it's a weird one, and it's just, but we've seen them given. It's not surprising. Like, are we surprised that these decisions are given? But it's weird. They spoke about the Doku one as well, and an inevitable coming together. That's what they called it. So if Calvin Phillips is trying to clear the ball and Gordon puts his leg in front of it, is that like an inevitable coming together? It's mad. Acers, say Dazzler was on the horn with Jade last night. I got multiple messages this morning, Acers, about that. Um, yeah, absolutely. He is on the Jade Cargill train. That is for sure. So yeah, let's begin. Let's talk about Luis Diaz and the dad and all this kind of thing. Now, you think about when we go back to kind of pre-Christmas and stuff like that and all, and just let you know, 78 minutes gone, still 2-0 to go. But the amount of support that the club gave Luis Diaz at the time, and I'm sure the club got heavily involved in this in the background in terms of, you know, being involved in supporting Luis Diaz and brokering this deal or whatever it was to have the safe return of his mum and dad. And we all felt it at the time, and the wider football community felt it at the time as well. But here we have the dad now. He's partying and he's celebrating and he's having a great time in Liverpool, and he's been wined and dined. He's been looked after. He's been given the royal treatment, as they say. Dancing around, we see the videos, all that kind of stuff, celebrating the son and all that. It's great. But what's all this talk of Barcelona and stuff like that at a pivotal time in our season? Um, and at a time where your son, at the moment, who is missing chances left, right, and centre, needs to be extremely focused on the job at hand. Why would you start putting out this narrative of Barcelona or whatever it is, even if it's true, and even if Luis Diaz has designs on going to Barcelona and maybe wants to go in the summer, and that's fine if that's what he wants to do. But why now? When we're dealing with everything that we're dealing with at the moment, we're dealing with serious levels of injuries. We're in a title race that we never expected to be in due to the rebuild that we had to go through. We're dealing with the pain of losing our gaffer. He's come out, said he's leaving. Plus the coaching staff. Um, and we're having to go through all this, and now this adds to it. One, it's extremely disrespectful to the club who supported you and who has been looking after you. And two, this is the kind of stuff that shouldn't be handled. You shouldn't air this out in the ether, as they say, and add to the pressure of the club. And quite frankly, to be honest, a conversation should be had with Luis Diaz to tell his dad to shut his gob, to be honest. That there's no need to be carrying on like this and disrespecting the club that supported them so well. Um, and I was surprised yesterday at the press conference that none of the journalists asked the question. And I suppose when you look at the press conferences, sometimes they're kind of angled that way. But why didn't someone ask the question? Now, I don't know what kind of answer you get from Jurgen, because Jurgen obviously is extremely focused on seeing out the end of the season and hopefully landing a Premier League title and a Europa League with a bit of luck. And some might say, well, maybe he doesn't want to get caught up in that kind of stuff and all. And we've seen the conversation about Xavi Alonso, and we're going to have to talk about that in a minute as well. That conversation needs to be had, and that needs to be dampened down very quick. And quite frankly, that conversation should be coming from Luis Diaz. Because quite frankly, if that was to continue and derail us in any way, quite frankly, once Jota's back fit, Diaz is gone on the bench. And that's the way I'd be dealing with it, because I just don't think it's acceptable to carry on like that and to be putting that stuff out there. If he wants to go to Barcelona, let them negotiate in the summer if that's where he wants to go. But I think it's really, really poor and really, really bad timing. And especially on the backdrop of everything that happened prior to Christmas and stuff like that and all, I think it's a real kicker for the club, to be honest. So we'll park that there and we'll see. But I was disappointed yesterday it wasn't raised as a point in the press conference. Maybe it was in the embargo section. I don't know. We will get on to the gaffer. We will talk about the gaffer's presser now in a minute. So obviously Alonso has ruled himself out, and Twitter kind of went into a little bit of meltdown, and he doesn't want us, he doesn't want Liverpool, and all this kind of thing. The fact of the matter is, he probably feels obliged to stay at Bayer Leverkusen. That he feels that that's where he needs to be. He's in the middle of it. He's on the cusp of winning the Bundesliga title. He's still heavily involved in the Europa League. As far as I know, they're still unbeaten this season as well. So there's the whole invincibles thing, if you like. So obviously he doesn't want any of that derailed. And quite frankly, I was happy that yesterday they came out and a statement was made, and we can move on from it now, and we can proceed with what we want to do. And we don't have to, we don't want this to be another kind of Jude Bellingham situation, but at a managerial level. So it'll be interesting to see going forward. I know that Michael Edwards, they're heavily involved in looking at potentially purchasing Toulouse at the moment and broadening the club network, which I think is not necessarily something that I agree with, but I think it's something that a lot of the top clubs are going to be forced to do. And it'll be interesting to see how the legislation and everything else goes around that and how it's monitored and how it's managed. I've spoke about United now having the links with Nice. I spoke about Man City at will, about the amount of clubs that they're linked with and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how that all plays out. But it's one of those kind of things. If you can't beat them, join them, isn't it? But there's a number of candidates here. Nagelsmann is there, Amarin is there, De Zerbi is there, Thomas Frank, who I think has had by his standards, I would think an extremely poor season. I know he lost Ivan Tony over the betting thing till January, but I just think they've been very un-Brentford like this season. They've been caught out a number of times late on in games when they were in control. Um, and there's a number of other people in there. Ange just mentioned and all. I don't see Ange leaving Spurs anyway. Again, if Ange was to join stuff like that, Darren, it'd give me a torturous time after my view on the likes of Ange and stuff like that. But for me, my choice, I think I'm going with, and I think it's most people's choice as well. I think is Amaral. I'd like to see him come in and see what happens there. Darren's of the opinion he thinks Nagelsmann should be the guy from an independent, neutral point of view. There's talk of the Serbia as well and stuff like that. I think where he's done okay. I'm not too sure because I think again Brighton have had a massive drop off this season, between injuries, between the usual routine of selling off your top players and trying to replace them, and obviously the added situation of playing in Europe and stuff like that as well has kind of just derailed them somewhat. They look very un-Brighton like at times, and that's, I suppose, when we go to look at this game tonight. It's an interesting one because Brighton could be absolutely brilliant. We've had some great matches against them where we've come out on the right side and on the wrong side. Um, but Brighton can rock up tomorrow and they could be absolutely brilliant, or they could be just catastrophic. And that's the problem. And there hasn't been much of an in between. So it'll be interesting to see. And we'll take a look at the lineups as well. We'll discuss where the danger is potentially coming from and all that kind of stuff. And you know how everything fits into this title race and stuff like that. But it's going to be massive. I think it's going to be tight. Um, would I be surprised tomorrow if Arsenal get a result? No, I think they're playing really, really well. I think City, although they're getting the results that they want, I think there's a number of players slightly underperforming for them and are just not kind of hitting their straps. And at times they just look a little bit clunky in certain areas where they could be got at. And Arsenal might be able to, monopolise on that situation. And that would be massive tomorrow as well. Ideally for us, probably a draw would be great if we can pick up the win. And obviously, if we pick up the win, we can add further pressure to Arsenal and to Man City in terms of their game right after us. But we shall see what happens. But it's going to be a very interesting end to the season. 10 cup finals coming up. Going to be massive. I think there's, you know, where we wouldn't have expected, and the gaffer alluded to it in the press conference, where we wouldn't have expected to be potentially in this position, due to the rebuild and stuff like that. But how it's gone so well, and also the injuries we faced, and the younger players we've had to bring in who have done a phenomenal job for us to be there is just unbelievable. But now we find ourselves here, 10 games to go, 10 cup finals, an opportunity to send the gaffer off with another Premier League title. And we've heard about these players saying they're going to walk through walls and all that kind of stuff. And now is the time to do it. These 10 games, players coming back off injury, they're going to be kind of drip fed in. But we've an extremely strong team for tomorrow. Some would argue potentially our strongest 11, although Trent and Allison back in would make it even stronger. No disrespect to Bradley or Kelleher, they've done an amazing job. But I think this is the time now where for Liverpool, not only do we look at this send off for Klopp, but I think there's an obligation on us to see out the next 10 games. I think we owe it to the gaffer. I think a lot of those players owe it to the gaffer. I think a number of players in the team he's been extremely loyal to down through the years. Some of them no longer there, but he's been extremely loyal. And I think there's an obligation on those players to see this out. And I think tomorrow's the first game. It's like the first game of a 10-game season. And we have to make sure we're on it from minute one. We know that Brighton can they can damage that situation for us, and we can't allow them to do it. We have to go out and pose ourselves on them. It's Anfield, the Anfield crowd. Anyone who's at that game tomorrow should really take advantage. I know Dave's going over, so big up Dave. Hope you enjoy it. But anyone who's in that ground tomorrow should be absolutely coughing up a lung in terms of cheering and stuff like that, because for some people going to that ground tomorrow, it's the last time they're going to see Jurgen Klopp at Anfield in person. So I think it's an obligation on the crowd and on the team to see this title race out and deliver this title to Jurgen Klopp before he leaves. And I think that's really, really important. And I wanted to get that out there. So, right, let's go. Let's talk about this game. Just to let you know, Aston Villa, 89th minute, still 2-0 up. The goals from Diaby and Concert. So, right, let's get into the game and let's let's get into the comments first. Big up Stephen in there. Yeah, he's still baffled by it. I did have a look at it, still baffled by it. Absolutely, Stephen. Unreal. Thank God we've got wrestling to enjoy as well when things don't go our way, Stephen. That's the main thing. Acers say Dazzler, he was indeed. Hey, probably has Jay a t-shirt pre-ordered. I'm not too sure, but I'd imagine so. Diaz fired on Colombian drum bandwagon. Yeah. Keith, it worries me when we hit the summer, we will see a lot of our best players leave because Klopp is going. I don't think that's the case, Keith. I'd be very, very surprised at that if that's the case. I mean, if Mo Salah, for argument's sake, if Mo Salah goes in the summer, it's not because Jurgen Klopp is going. It's because Mo Salah, there was obviously some sort of a deal struck last year to stick around for another year. And maybe FSG are looking at a situation there where with a new manager coming in, maybe it's time to cash in on him because he's going into the last year of his contract. And we cannot, and I stress this, we cannot, and I love Mo Salah. I don't want Mo Salah to leave Liverpool. But we cannot go into the final year of his contract with nothing in place. So I think it's probably going to get to a stage where it's time to part company, cash in, take that big deal, and make sure that that money is apportioned to the new manager coming in to um, fix that situation if Mo Salah's exiting the building. And I think that's the way it has to go. And I don't think it's a reflection of Klopp leaving. I think Mo Salah could have went last summer very easily, and it wouldn't have been a reflection of Klopp leaving. But there is a number of contracts coming up. Obviously, Virgil van Dijk's is coming up, really, really important. I presume Allison's maybe coming up as well, and I presume Trent. They were all kind of done in around the same time as the Fabinho one as well at the time as well. I think there was a few of them re-signed. So Trent's one is obviously pivotal, because I see Trent as being the figurehead for Liverpool Football Club into the future. And I think it's really, really important that we keep that bond there with those local guys like himself and Curtis and all. I think that's vital that stays there. So I think there won't be any issue on Trent's contract. I think that will be sorted. I think Virgil's will be sorted. I don't know if there's an issue with Allison's. If there is, I think it will be sorted. I don't think these boys are leaving necessarily because of Klopp leaving. I think if they want a new challenge or if things unravel this season and maybe they're just as worn out as Klopp is in terms of trying to hunt down City. It's been a really difficult season for these boys as well, between injuries and you know changing squads and changing lineups all the time, and you get used to having your partner there beside you on the pitch, and all of a sudden every week you're nearly getting a different guy, and you know it's tough for these guys, and it's a tough season, and we wouldn't be surprised if they want to look at their situation or they want to explore the market and stuff like that. And if they do, good luck to them. And we will wish them well, like we always do with players that leave our club and who have served us so well. But we follow Liverpool Football Club. It's not Virgil van Dijk FC. It's not Mo Salah FC. It's not Jurgen Klopp FC. It's Liverpool FC, and that's who we followed all these years. And I think we just have to get on with it, and we have to accept what falls out of whatever situation. Bayern 2-0 down to Dortmund. Good lord. I think Alonso's taking a massive risk staying because it's not every day Liverpool or Bayern knocking on your door, and it might not happen again. It's hard to know, Keith. That's the thing, you know. I mean, for me, I think staying at Leverkusen, I think one is maybe he wants to go again next year and see how that goes, and maybe try and do a back-to-back Bundesliga or whatever it is. It could be a case that maybe discussions with Real Madrid have happened and they've clued him up to the Ancelotti situation. And maybe they want him in there after Ancelotti. And the draw of Real Madrid, as we've seen before, with players and everything else, it's just too big to turn down. And who knows, maybe in the future that opportunity might come around again and we might benefit from it because maybe he might be much more experienced and stuff like that. Maybe at the moment, maybe he might feel that maybe he's not experienced enough to step into a job that size at Liverpool, coming off the back of Jurgen Klopp, coming off the back of some of the successes we've had, and going back to the top of the table in terms of that dinner table against other clubs and all where we were missing for so many years. And I think maybe he's looked at that and maybe it's too much for him. Who knows? So we shall see. But I mean, if he didn't feel comfortable and he didn't want to come in, then I'm glad he's not coming in because I don't necessarily want anyone to come in who's going to fail. I want them to be successful. And this is a huge opportunity to fail because remember, if players do go, it's going to be very difficult to replace a Mo Salah if it happens. It'd be very difficult to replace a Virgil van Dijk if it happens, but they will have to be replaced. And the last thing you need in there is a manager who's not comfortable. We need someone who wants to come in there, do the job, push their chest out, make it happen, be strong in that position and all. Let's see what happens. Acer Southgate, good lord, stop that now. Stop. He's that bad I charge him in for club games. Bonkers Dortmund 2, Munich now. Yeah, absolutely. Mad bonkers. Big up. Napoli nil, Atalanta 3. Yeah, massive drop off from Napoli, hasn't it been? Massive drop off. Bonkers. My choice is Amarin. Yeah, I'm with you on that bonkers as well. I think he's there's a lot to like about him. And you roll that dice and you take a risk with anyone that you heard. And I mean, there's like if you put him on the table, you put Nagelsmann on the table, and you put the Zerbi on the table for argument's sake. They all have positives and negatives. And the job of Michael Edwards and probably Richard Hughes as well, and anyone else who's involved, is to assess that situation and decide who brings the best situation for us, so that the drop off isn't as huge as we expect with Jurgen Klopp leaving the building. Just let you know, 9 minutes of injury time in that Aston Villa game. 6 minutes have gone. Still 2-0. Luca Dini's just picked up a yellow card. It's 2-0 still to Aston Villa. Henry's in. Big up Henry. What's the crack? All good. Allison has another 2 or 3 years left. Yeah, well, that's good. And that's the main thing. Brentford will beat United. I certainly hope so, guys. I hope you were following our beat the bookie, because we're on the cusp, I would say, of getting up the goal scorer bet that I put out there. I'm just waiting on Ivan Toney tonight to score a goal anytime. So if that happens, that one has come up, and it's a tidy little bet as well. It's about, I think it's around, it's nearly 20 to 1 anyway, or something like that. So that's nice as well. Fulham let me down earlier in the result about the score. If Fulham had come up, we could have had big money going into the United game this evening. But hopefully, is this Amarin any good? Don't know much about him. Check him out, Keith. Have a look. A lot of people are playing him down and stuff like that now. But statistically, he looks really, really good. And technically and tactically, he looks really, really good as well. So, you don't come into a conversation for Liverpool Football Club unless you're a very, very good manager. I'm good. Got a live at 9, so I'm chilling. Absolutely, sit back and chill and relax until it happens. Acers, Irish Grand National Monday. Looking forward to it. I might do a little show if I get a chance tomorrow. We have got visitors coming over for Easter, so pretty packed out house tomorrow. And we're full to the gillies with dogs as well because it's people's time to go away with kids, mid-term break and all that. So pretty busy, but I might have a look tomorrow at the card for Monday. and I might go through it and drop a few picks. Let's say I might do it in a short, or I might jump on and do a little video. But it's interesting. If you have picked out anyone, let me know in the chat if you've had a look already. Right, let's get into the gaffer's comments. So he says on how he views the Brighton game going. He says, independent of the other game, he says all he could do was really focus on our game, and that's true. But obviously, we'd always have one eye on it. Anything that influences the title race, if you're in it, you have to watch it. But he said he made the point, and it was an interesting one. He says if someone had told him we'd be sitting here with 10 games to go in the title race, he would have signed the contract straight away. So he didn't expect to see himself here, but we are here now. And I think what he says is we are here now. And what's important is, to do the very best we can in each game and go out there and take advantage of the opportunity that has come. So really, really important. He has a lot of praise for Roberto De Zerbi, and for Brighton and for Graham Potter as well, and in the way that they do business, in the way that they play football, in the way that they set up. So high praise for Brighton, and why not? Because they have handed us our backside a number of times. So why wouldn't he? He says on what makes Brighton such a difficult opponent, the way they play, he says it's a really different way. I couldn't coach that. It goes against my personality, but it's a good watch. It's very demanding for the players. It's clear positioning. Hold your position, keep your positioning, pass in the right position, pass in the right moment. He's a top coach. That's going to help you coach a team anyway. I don't think there's much in that's in a different way. We probably play the same way. He's talking about how you protect the ball there and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, interesting. He says also on key to being successful during the run in. He says give absolutely everything, which is no surprise. And obviously, he talks about the likes of injuries and having people available and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously, there's obviously a little bit of luck involved as well, as there always is. I don't know of any team that has won the Premier League in any season that hasn't had a little bit of luck to go there. So let's see what happens. And I think he's enthused for the run in as well. Um, I think he's a little bit changed since he made the announcement. I think he's a bit more relaxed. He's a bit more jovial, even though the pressure is there. So yeah. So that's it. He says on injured players returning. This is what I mean. But look, we need them. They need to be back. They're not tomorrow back. They are not Sunday back. Probably not next week. But then step by step, we have them coming through. So we know potentially Canate's back, which is going to be huge for us. So we will look at the teams. We know that Robbo is not as severe that the ankle injury against Scotland as it was. He should be able to sort himself out. I don't think he might be available tomorrow, but he should be coming back. And then over the next few weeks, we should start to see players drip feedback in there. We've seen the footage of Jota out training, kicking ball, running, all that kind of stuff. So he must be pretty close. And what a joy it's going to be to see him back, because he's been outstanding this season, except the injuries. So yeah, and then he spoke obviously, the situation with Joel, the situation with Stefan, the situation with Thiago, Trent, all those other players and stuff like that. He spoke about Darwin as well, that Darwin is fine, that he did his rehab, and then he did some isolated training, and he's back team training and all that. So Darwin will be ready to go tomorrow. I'm sure these boys tomorrow will be absolutely chomping at the bit to go out there and put on a performance. After the disappointment of that FA Cup, good Lord, I think someone's going to be on the end of a hiding, and hopefully it's Brighton tomorrow. What else did he say? He says, we are where we are, and these are the last 10 games. It's too early to see the finishing line, but we are 28 games further than the beginning of the season. We got a few really important informations and a lot of answers. I like them questions we didn't know how to answer in the beginning of the season. I think everybody is excited about it, and rightly so. Anfield will be rocking on Sunday. We have not only home games, unfortunately, but we have still a few, and there we must make the difference. So he was talking about rallying up the Anfield crowd as well. Take advantage. These are his last number of games on Anfield. Cherish them, and stuff like that. So made that point. What he says, that's how it is. If you want to win anything, you need to play top football. You need to be lucky. But I hope we are from now on with injuries, and then let's see what we can do. So that was the press conference basically. And I find with the press conferences sometimes, as I said earlier, if I was sitting in a press conference, I don't know, maybe they throw me out and bar me or something like that. But I'd certainly be asking the questions about, the comments made by Luis Diaz's father and stuff like that. I'd like to get a reaction to those type of things. So, but obviously they don't get asked, or you may not be asked back to the press conference if they're the questions that you ask. In terms of the preview, let's get into this. If you look at form at the moment, we have 4 wins and a draw out of the last 6. The last draw being Man City, of course. The loss was the Arsenal one, but since then we put 4 wins together in between those 2 games. If you look at Brighton are 3 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. The losses coming against Spurs 2-1. The draw was Everton, which would have been a bad result for Brighton. It was at home as well. And then Fulham beat them 3-0, where they gave them an absolute pasting. The wins have come against Crystal Palace, comprehensive win against them, comprehensive win against Sheffield United as well, 5-0, and a 1-0 against Nottingham Forest, where they grounded out. Forest did have chances in that game. So in terms of form, we're the form team coming in there. As I said, with Brighton at the moment, you don't know. It's kind of Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know which one's going to kind of show up until on the day. But that's the way we'll just have to play it out. If you look at team news, we kind of went through it already. Obviously, it's Joe Gomez is back from international duty. Darwin's recovered from his fitness. Cody and Luis Diaz shook off their concerns. Kanate looks like he's back. But key players missing for Brighton. Matoma is missing. Sully March is missing. Hinselwood is missing. We heard today now, we got an update as well that James Milner is missing. Joe Pedro, who has been instrumental for them this season, is also out, is potentially out as well. Incesso should be back, but I'm not sure if he'll start. Really, really important player for them. And of course, Adam Lallana, ex-Liverpool player as well. He will be in there playing no doubt. For us at the moment, Stefan, obviously Joe Matip, Bento, Thiago, Jota coming back, Trent eventually coming back, Allison coming back. So big players coming back. Robbo probably won't play, but he may be on the bench. I'm not too sure the ankle situation. Curtis getting close to coming back as well. Looking forward to Curtis coming back as well, because when you see when we go through the team as well, a lot of it kind of picks itself at times as well. And I'd like a little bit more competition in there. League Gunner tore Chelsea apart today during the watch along. Absolutely, especially Burnley down to 10 men as well. I did though, I have to say, I had Cole Palmer in my goal scorer bet, so not too bad. Lazio 1-0 up against Juventus. Henry, remember to put your clocks forward an hour at 1 a.m. BST time starts. Absolutely. I always like it when the clocks change. Throws your sleeping pattern off a little bit, but I always like it. Fiorentina versus AC Milan starts soon as well. Yeah, we're getting drenched, aren't we, with sport these days? Unbelievable. Next week's going to be an absolute belter. So for us, I think it kind of really picks itself. I mean, obviously with Curtis being out, the midfield picks itself. With Trent being out, your decisions on the midfield or the back four generally looks after itself. And I think at the moment, the front three is our strongest front three until Jota comes back. Cody obviously will be on the bench. So you're starting with Queeveen and goals, Connor Bradley, Konate, Van Dijk, Joe Gomez, Dom, Endo, and Alexis McAllister midfield. And then you've got Mo, Darwin, and Luis Diaz. And that team there, if focused, if on it, and if obliged to deliver this Premier League title to Jurgen Klopp before he leaves, should have plenty in the tank there to beat Brighton. Brighton have their usual setup as well, missing key players, of course. Gross is the key one to watch. Also, Espinina coming in with those runs that he makes as well. Ansu Fati can be very dangerous. Welbeck turning back the clock at times can be very dangerous if allowed as well. And Lallana obviously would always like to put on a good show at Anfield, no doubt about that, ex-Liverpool boy. Lamptey at the back can be dangerous as well in terms of getting forward and joining the midfield in terms of that support. Dunk, we know how good he can be at the back as well, only back from international duty as well. And Van Heck has been very, very good for them at times as well. So that's what we're going to be up against come tomorrow, 2 p.m. But I think we should have too much for them. And I think with everything that's on the line and with everything that's going to happen, with the setting that's there and Jurgen Klopp and the title race and the opportunity to put 3 points on the board, go top and mount that pressure on Arsenal and on Man City. In the past, we've seen that we haven't been able to take that step through that door to apply that pressure. But I think tomorrow we'll have too much for Brighton. Let me know your predictions in the comments. What are you going for a prediction? Liverpool versus Brighton tomorrow. And you can give me the City Arsenal one as well if you want, because we are talking about a title race. I think we're going to be Brighton 3-1. And I think the three front guys will all get a goal each. And I think Gross will probably pop up with a goal for Brighton. Let me know if you have a prediction for the game. Title race at the moment. This is how it looks at the moment. Ourselves and Arsenal only separated by goal difference, and Man City just a point behind. But this is where we know how vital it is to put 3 points on the board tomorrow. Because if Man City get their noses in front at any stage in this title race, we know it's over. They just put their nose to the floor, to the grind, and away they go. And they're very hard to reel in. A lot of conversations at the moment about, who has the easier run in and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that matters, because in terms of the easier run in, a lot of that will be dictated by how fit you can keep your squad and your players over the next 10 games. We know that all three clubs are heavily involved in Europe as well. Ourselves in the Europa League, so we have that conundrum of the Thursday, Sunday situation and all that. And clearly, obviously, Man City, with a couple of tough ties against Real Madrid and obviously Arsenal facing Bayern Munich. And both teams, if they get through, could face each other as well. I think the ideal situation for us is that City and Arsenal continue to progress in Europe. I think if one of them fall out of Europe, I think it could be very advantageous in terms of the Premier League running. Because obviously you have less games to do and stuff like that. And really, this season has really been a story of injuries when you think about it for all three clubs, really. At times, City have looked very ordinary when they've lost De Bruyne, when they've lost Rodri, when they've lost Haaland. They've looked very ordinary, even though they still kind of get the job done. Same with Arsenal as well. If Arsenal were to lose key players, if they were to lose a Declan Rice or, Ben White, who's been exceptional for them, Martin Odegaard, if they were to lose Bukayo Saka, and already they could have a couple of key players tomorrow missing. Not sure whether Martinelli's going to be available. And let's see how their midfield looks as well. But I think the next 10 games, I think there's going to be twists and turns in this title race. I think you look at games there where you think you're just going to put 3 points on the board and it might not necessarily happen. You're going to have teams there that are fighting for their lives in terms of relegation, who will put their bodies on the line and could derail the title race of any one of these three teams. You look at the Everton that are down there fighting it out, Brentford potentially on tonight's results, depending on how it goes, could be down there fighting it out. Forest are down there fighting it out. Any of these teams that you play that are down there fighting it out are going to be giving you a proper game when you come to town, or if they visit you. So it's really, really important that the most important thing at the moment is take advantage when you can, if you're playing beforehand, to put points on the board to add to that pressure. And two, keep your squad as fit as you can as we get into the real deep end, the real business end, the real, title race heated up end of this season. And that's what's going to be really, really important about this. But it's going to be a fantastic title race. Really, really looking forward to it. And I think whoever wins it this year, I think they'll be fully deserving of it, because I think it's been a tough year for a lot of teams. So it's going to be interesting. And I hope over the next 10 games with all three teams that the likes of the poor officiating and the poor VAR decisions and all that kind of stuff don't cost one of these teams the title, where you look back on it, and if Arsenal were to go on and win the league, we don't want people throwing shade on it that, was this VAR decision or that VAR decision, or this happened or that happened. If you win it, you're good enough and you're the champions, and you should celebrate that. And I just hope the officiating and the VAR and all that kind of stuff in the next 10 games is much, much stronger than we've seen in the first 28. So let's see what happens there. But it's going to be an unbelievable title race. don't take your eye off the European places either, and also that relegation battle is going to be absolutely fantastic. We don't know if there's more to come from Everton, but there's going to be serious twists and turns in this, and it's going to be a very interesting summer as well. There's going to be the managerial merry-go-round. There's going to be a lot of players exiting the building. A lot of players are going to have to be replaced. A lot of teams there at the moment under financial constraints and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a cracking Super Sunday. Can't wait for it. Really looking forward to the title race. Hope that the team understands how much of an obligation there is on them to deliver this title for Jurgen Klopp before he leaves. And I hope it's taken in that vein. Until next time, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, drop a like on the video, up the Reds, hopefully top of the table tomorrow. Enjoy your Easter. And of course, as I just said earlier, Bank Holiday Monday, the Irish Grand National at Fairyhouse and all. Can't wait for that as well. It's going to be a fantastic week coming up next week as well. Don't forget, Monday, I might be back tomorrow evening with a match reaction, depending on what time people leave here. If not, Monday we'll have the Monday mashup. Wednesday we'll have Pro Wrestling Weekly. Thursday we'll have Thursday Tier Talk. And I'm sure Thursday will be kind of a bit of a watch along as well. I think United are playing Chelsea and stuff like that. So Darren will be on and he'll be keeping us up to date on everything that's happening in the matches that happen. So you'll get your usual flavour of Thursday Tier Talk, plus the usual reactions, kind of like a mini watch along. But until next time, folks, have a safe weekend and enjoy the football and the chocolate.